He was a man from another time, a man with ways foreign to our own and yet strangely familiar. And this stranger had the power to see the future. His name, Mitt Romney. Hi everybody, I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta, and here to take a look at the modern day Nostradamus. We've got Scott Ott and just back from deep in the Rocky Mountains, Bill Whittle, kind of in my neighborhood, folks. All right, gentlemen, Michael Dorstowitz wonders if Mitt Romney is the new Nostradamus after a remarkable series of election predictions all came true. First up, a little something Romney said about Jeep last year. Watch this clip.
I saw a story today that one of the great manufacturers in this state, Jeep, now owned by the Italians, is thinking of moving all production to China. I will fight for every good job in America. I'm going to fight to make sure trade is fair, and if it's fair, America will win.
Now, Jeep, whose parent company Chrysler Group was practically given away free to Fiat by the Obama administration, denied they would build vehicles in China. And yet just in the last few days, Jeep announced they would indeed be building Jeeps in China because that's the kind of tiny little decision a massive car company makes in a split second. Scott, this is what I thought of as I watched President Obama take his oath of office yesterday. How about you?
Well, you know, first of all, it's the biggest lie of the year, as we know, what Mitt Romney said. I mean, there were no other lies told during the entire political season last year that even came close to rivaling this huge misstatement about Jeep, because clearly they're not moving all production to China. Just, what is it, just like 100,000 vehicles a year or something like that. So, you know, I think we need to be vigilant in fact-checking these Republicans who just can't, their native language is lies.
I don't know what to do with that, Scott. Thank you for making me shut up for once. All right, this next bit is always worth a grin and a giggle, so let's replay the most awkward moment from all three presidential debates.
And so we took a concerted effort to go out and find women who had backgrounds that could be qualified to become members of our cabinet. I went to a number of women's groups and said, can you help us find folks? And they brought us whole binders full of women.
Now, Romney took a lot of heat for those binders full of women comment, but it turns out Obama could use those because even liberals are calling his cabinet a boys' club. Bill, speaking just for myself here, there is not enough schadenfreude to go around and cover the entire American electorate. How about you?
Oh, yes, there is. We'll just have to manufacture some more. And we'll manufacture it in China.
In China.
With women managers. You know, there's a thing about Romneydamus. The Jeep thing is interesting because listening to you just set up the previous question, why it's enough to make a fella thought that maybe the management of Jeep, which had the plans to move to China and realized that they were embarrassing the person who bought their company for them, maybe they simply decided to wait until after the election for the truth to be known about the move to China. And maybe the guy who says that Mitt Romney wants to put lady parts into a giant binder and ship them over to China, maybe they waited until after the election to let the truth known about what kind of cabinet they wanted. Maybe all those people who came weeping with joy seeing Barack Obama handing out water bottles after Superstorm Sandy came ashore who are still without power, food, electricity, maybe all of them had to wait until after the election. Maybe every single thing that we were told about our side about being evil and every single thing about their side being good was actually a giant lie that simply had to wait until after the election, much like Obamacare, which full force does not take place until now, after the election. It's enough to make a man into a raving cynic.
Yeah, you know, they say that, they say the truth will out, and apparently that happens around November 7th or so. All right, during the foreign policy debate, Romney mentioned that Islamists had taken over half of Mali and North Africa. It would be a serious problem. And he was mocked by Bill Maher and just about everybody else for even talking about it. And now the French have invaded Mali, the French, to try and stop the Islamists, and of course we're leading from behind again. And of course, almost nobody is saying, man, maybe Romney wouldn't have been so bad. Scott, what's wrong with this country that we can't even get hindsight right?
Well, first of all, that whole Mali remark didn't even register with the media because first of all, they didn't realize it was a country. Secondly, that there was anything going wrong there. And, you know, of course, and France being another country, they have very little knowledge about France as well. The mainstream media is a spoon-fed group of acolytes and sycophants who are just waiting for the administration to hand down the next bit of information. And so when all of a sudden people start getting killed and fighter jets and troops on the ground and stuff like that, they're like, where did this come from? And you don't think anybody in the newsroom jumped up and said, hey, remember when Mitt Romney said something about that during the last debate? I guarantee you that did not happen in any newsroom in America, except here.
Now, Scott, I don't want to hear you disparage the White House steno pool ever again. Not on my segment. Bill, in April of last year, Romney told an NRA audience that if Obama was reelected, he would, and this is a quote, infringe on our Second Amendment rights, end quote, because Obama would have more flexibility. But come on, to be fair to the president, that one was just too easy, wasn't it?
You know, you hear all these cases where Barack Obama and the Democrats lied in order to get reelected, and Mitt Romney told the truth. It's enough to make a fellow think we elected the wrong guy every now and then. You just almost sort of pop that thought into your head, isn't it? And it's exactly what Scott said. It's exactly what he said. It's what we've been saying here for 5 years. Every single problem, every single life-threatening problem that this republic faces is due to one thing and one thing only, Steve. There is no press. There is no press. There's no press. There's no free press. If there was a press, we would have both sides of the issues and people would be held accountable for their actions. And Hillary Clinton couldn't say, I can't talk about Benghazi because I have a headache. And none of this stuff would happen if we had a press. But we don't have a press. And if by some odd chance members of the press happen to be watching, you should know that you are held in the lowest form of contempt by all Americans, regardless of the party. We know who and what you are. You're the only people that rank lower than politicians in the grand scheme of loathsomeness and dereliction of duty. You're the most awful, worthless, terrible, malignant, incompetent, dreadful people in our entire society.
And now Bill Whittle's doing it. I've had it up to here with making fun of the mainstream media. Folks, I read a story like this one from Dorstowitz, and it makes me feel a little just stabby. Here's a guy who, whether you agreed with him or not, at least was prepared to be president of the United States. He'd done his homework, he could see problems coming along up the road, and he was even honest enough, maybe stupid enough, to talk about some of them during an election. After 4 years, though, what a refreshing change. Romney gave me a little hope. And now we're back to the man who talks about hope and change while delivering Jeep to China, the Oval Office to a bunch of white guys, North Africa to Al-Qaeda, and your Second Amendment rights to the dumpster. And a second term is just getting started, folks, so stay sharp. For PJTV, I'm Steve Green.